Amen. You know, when people are born, a lot of effort is placed into a person's life.
Yeah.
A mother spends approximately 9 months or more laboring to bring about a life into this world.
Yeah.
And after that child is born, parents are charged with the responsibility of placing a lot of effort into the life of that child. Parents spend a lot of time teaching that child homework and the basic values of life in order to make that child a productive citizen. A lot of effort is placed into an individual's life because there is a purpose for each and every person's life. And even at the end of our lives, somebody is going to expend some effort putting our bodies into the ground, arranging for a funeral. All through our lives, there will be effort that will be expended. And even in our own lives, we will expend effort doing certain things. And the question that we'll ask ourselves at the end of our life is this: what was the purpose of it all? Why did I put all this energy and effort into this thing that I call life? At some point or another, we all inevitably have to confront this question: what is God's will for my life, and what am I supposed to be doing with the life that He has given to me? All of us, no doubt, have noticed that when you go to the grocery store, that there are products on the shelf, and each product has its own unique expiration date. That expiration date that is stamped on that product tells you that that product is only good for so long. That inevitably, there's only so much time to use the product for which it is intended for. And that one day there will come a date in which that expiration date comes and the contents of the product are no longer good. Our lives are like that product. God has stamped each and every one of our lives with an expiration date. And He has only given us so much time to accomplish those things that He has called us into being to accomplish. So when people ask the question, why has God put me here? They want to know, what am I supposed to be doing with this wonderful gift that God has given me called human life? Last week, when we were in Romans 12, chapters 1 through 2, we established the fact that it was God's will that we first of all know His mind. That we come to an understanding of who He is by having a renewed or transformed mind. But this week, we're going to look at what the manifestation of what God's will is for our life is. And we're going to go to the book of 1 Thessalonians, chapter 4, verses 3 through 4. And when you get there, say amen. The title of today's message for a thought is Walking in the Will of God. Walking in the will of God. Again, last week we talked about what it means to have a mind that is set on doing God's will. But today we want to talk about the practical application of what it means to carry out God's will in our daily lives. When you get to 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 3 through 4, you will find these words. I'm going to be reading from the English Standard Bible, so it's going to sound a little bit different than what you might have. Paul says, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each one of you know how to control his body in holiness and in honor." Again, the title of this message is Walking in the Will of God. Now, some of you may have noticed that as you drove up in the parking lot this morning, that there is a sign outside that says, "This is the Church of God Sanctified." We are the Church of God Sanctified. Now, on the basis of what that sign says, because it says that we're a sanctified church, does that automatically mean that we are a church that's doing God's will? Likewise, can a person be called a Christian simply because they say that they're one? The question that we have to ask ourselves today is, what does it mean to live a sanctified life? The word sanctification means that one has been set apart by God in order to be used for His purposes. Let me say that again. To be sanctified means that God has chosen you in order to set you apart to accomplish His purposes. Those individuals who say that they're Christians are people who have been set apart by God for His purposes. A Christian is someone who has been filled with God's Spirit and has turned away from the world in order to live a life unto God. A person who is a Christian is a sanctified person. So every person who calls himself a Christian is saying that I have been set apart from the world in order to serve God. Christians have been set aside by God. Let me see if I can break this down by means of example. You know, when a person makes a decision to join the military, they pledge their lives to serve the government of the United States. You see, when you enter into the military, you make a conscious decision to break from civilian life in order to serve the government. When you become a soldier, your life is governed by the rules and the laws of the military. See, when you become a soldier, you just can't come home on weekend leave and say, I'm amongst civilians, therefore I'm no longer a soldier. No, you have made a commitment to be a soldier. And regardless as to where you are, your allegiance is to the government of the United States. A soldier is not one who lives unto himself, but he has been created to live into the purposes of the government that he serves. Let me give you another example to see if I can help you understand what I'm talking about. When you get married, you make a conscious decision to stop living a single way of life. When you get married, you don't have the option of waking up one day saying to yourself, I desire to live as a single person. Can't just wake up one morning and take the wedding ring off and say that I'm no longer married. Can't just fold down the wedding pictures on your desk and say that I'm a single person. It doesn't work that way. When you get married to someone, you have made a decision to devote the rest of your life to that person. And likewise, a Christian is someone who has made a decision to devote their life unto God forever.